My name is Elena Rodriguez, and 3 years ago, my parents refused to invite me to Christmas dinner because I had lost my job and they were embarrassed by my failure. Last month, I purchased their struggling family business for $2, $8 million cash, and became their employer. This is the story of how professional devastation became the foundation for extraordinary success, and why the rejection that broke my heart ultimately saved my future. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. When I walked into the conference room at Meridian Holdings last Tuesday morning, my parents sat across from me at the polished mahogany table, their faces pale with recognition and disbelief. The same people who had declared me unemployable and a disappointment to the family name were now signing documents that transferred ownership of Rodriguez Manufacturing Solutions to me. The irony was not lost on anyone present, least of all myself. The journey from that devastating Christmas morning 3 years ago to this moment of complete vindication represents more than professional recovery. It demonstrates how the most painful rejections can redirect us toward opportunities that we never would have discovered otherwise. Every humiliation, every closed door, and every moment of doubt served as preparation for success that exceeded my original ambitions by orders of magnitude. Today, I employ over 200 people across 3 facilities, including my parents, who now report to the management team I assembled. The company they built over 30 years had been hemorrhaging money for 18 months before I acquired it. Within 6 months under my leadership, we returned to profitability and secured contracts that will ensure growth for the next decade. The business model I developed during my period of unemployment has revolutionized their traditional manufacturing approach and created market advantages that our competitors cannot replicate. My story begins not with dramatic failure, but with methodical preparation that seemed destined for conventional success. I graduated summa cum laude from Northwestern University with degrees in industrial engineering and business administration, maintaining a 3.9 GPA while working part-time as a research assistant in the Manufacturing Optimization Laboratory. My professors consistently praised my analytical abilities and innovative approach to solving complex operational challenges. During my senior year, I conducted independent research on lean manufacturing principles and their application to small and medium-sized enterprises. This project required extensive fieldwork in manufacturing facilities across the Midwest, where I observed production processes, interviewed managers, and identified inefficiencies that traditional consulting approaches had overlooked. The research formed the foundation of my thesis, which won the university's award for outstanding undergraduate research in engineering. Dr. Sarah Chen, my faculty advisor, recognized the commercial potential of my research and encouraged me to consider entrepreneurial applications. Elena, your approach to manufacturing optimization addresses real problems that established companies struggle to solve, she explained during our final meeting. You have the technical expertise and business acumen to make a significant impact in this industry. Her encouragement reinforced my confidence that I possessed the knowledge and skills necessary for immediate professional success. Unlike many of my classmates who accepted entry-level positions at large corporations, I had developed specialized expertise that seemed to guarantee rapid advancement in the manufacturing sector. Following graduation, I accepted a position as operations analyst at Precision Dynamics, a mid-sized manufacturing company that produced components for the automotive industry. The role offered competitive compensation, comprehensive benefits, and clear advancement opportunities within a growing organization. My supervisor, Michael Torres, had reviewed my academic research and expressed enthusiasm about implementing my optimization techniques within their production processes. For 2 years, I thrived in this environment. I successfully implemented lean manufacturing principles that reduced waste by 23% and improved production efficiency by 31%. My recommendation saved Precision Dynamics over $400,000 annually while improving product quality and delivery times. The success of these initiatives established my reputation as someone who could identify problems and implement solutions that generated measurable results. My performance reviews consistently rated me as exceptional, and I received 2 promotions during my tenure. By my second anniversary, I was managing a team of 12 analysts and overseeing optimization projects across multiple production lines. The trajectory seemed to guarantee continued advancement towards senior management positions. Throughout this period of professional success, my relationship with my parents reflected their pride in my achievements and their expectations for continued advancement. Roberto and Maria Rodriguez had built Rodriguez Manufacturing Solutions, from a small machine shop into a regional supplier of custom industrial components. Their business employed 45 people and generated annual revenue of approximately $6 million. My parents had always emphasized the importance of education and professional achievement. They had sacrificed significantly to provide me with opportunities they never had, working extended hours and reinvesting profits into the business to fund my education. Their pride in my academic success and early career achievements was evident in every conversation and family gathering. During family dinners, my father would often discuss business challenges and seek my input on operational improvements. "Elena, you understand these modern manufacturing techniques better than anyone," he would say. "Your education and experience could help us compete with larger companies." These conversations reinforced my belief that my expertise was valuable and respected within my family. My mother frequently mentioned my career success to friends and extended family members. She would share details about my projects, promotions, and recognition, clearly taking pride in having raised a daughter who had achieved professional success. Their support provided confidence and motivation that reinforced my commitment to continued excellence. This family dynamic created expectations that would later make my professional setback feel even more devastating. I had become accustomed to being the family's success story, the daughter who had exceeded their aspirations and justified their sacrifices. My identity was closely tied to their pride in my achievements. The first indication of trouble at Precision Dynamics came during a routine quarterly review meeting in March. Michael Torres, who had been my strongest advocate, appeared unusually somber as he discussed the company's financial performance. "We're facing significant challenges," he explained. "The automotive industry downturn has affected our major clients, and we need to reduce costs immediately." Over the following weeks, it became clear that Precision Dynamics was experiencing more than temporary market fluctuations. Several major clients had canceled contracts or reduced orders substantially. The company's revenue had declined by 35% in the previous 6 months, creating financial pressure that threatened the survival of the business. Management implemented cost reduction measures that included salary freezes, reduced benefits, and elimination of non-essential projects. The optimization initiatives that had been my primary responsibility were suddenly viewed as luxury expenses rather than necessary investments. The same analytical work that had generated substantial cost savings was now considered expendable. In May, Torres called me into his office for a conversation that would change everything. "Elena, I want you to know that this decision has nothing to do with your performance," he began. "You've been exceptional, and your contributions have been invaluable. Unfortunately, we need to eliminate positions to survive, and operations analysis is not considered essential to our core functions." The layoff notice was effective immediately. I was given 2 weeks of severance pay and a letter of recommendation that praised my contributions but could not alter the reality of unemployment. Within an hour, I was clearing out my desk and saying goodbye to colleagues who expressed sympathy but seemed relieved that their own positions had been spared. The drive home that afternoon felt surreal. I had left for work that morning as a successful professional with clear career prospects. I was returning home unemployed for the first time since college, with no immediate plan for recovery. The shock of unexpected termination was compounded by the realization that my financial security had disappeared overnight. That evening, I called my parents to inform them of the situation. Their initial response was supportive and understanding. "These things happen in business," my father said. "You're talented and educated. You'll find something better quickly." My mother expressed confidence that the layoff was temporary and that my skills would be in high demand elsewhere. Their initial optimism provided some comfort, but it also created pressure to find new employment quickly. They expected that someone with my qualifications and experience would be able to secure comparable or better positions within a reasonable time frame. This expectation would later contribute to their disappointment when my job search extended longer than anticipated. I immediately began applying for positions that matched my background and experience. The manufacturing sector was experiencing widespread challenges, but I remained confident that my specialized expertise would differentiate me from other candidates. My combination of academic credentials, practical experience, and proven results seemed to guarantee employability. The job search that I expected to last weeks extended into months. The automotive industry downturn had affected numerous manufacturing companies, creating a competitive environment where multiple qualified candidates competed for limited opportunities. Companies that were hiring often offered positions at significantly reduced compensation or with limited advancement potential. I submitted applications to over 200 positions during the first 3 months of unemployment. The responses were uniformly disappointing. Most applications received no response at all. The interviews I secured typically ended with explanations that they were seeking candidates with more diverse experience or different specializations than mine. The financial pressure intensified as my savings depleted. I had been responsible with money during my employment, but I had also been living according to my income level. The sudden loss of salary created immediate concerns about rent, car payments, and basic living expenses. I reduced my expenses dramatically, but unemployment benefits covered only a fraction of my previous income. By September, 6 months after my layoff, my parents' attitude had shifted noticeably. The supportive understanding had been replaced by questions about my job search strategy and suggestions that perhaps I was being too selective in my applications. "Maybe you should consider positions outside manufacturing," my mother suggested. "Any job is better than no job." Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. The conversation that changed everything occurred on December 18th. I had been unemployed for 9 months and was struggling both financially and emotionally. My parents called to discuss Christmas plans, a conversation I expected to provide some comfort during a difficult period. Instead, my mother delivered news that felt like a physical blow. "Elena, we've decided that it would be better if you didn't join us for Christmas this year," she said, her voice carefully controlled. "Your unemployment situation has been challenging for the family. We're hosting some important business associates, and your current circumstances might create uncomfortable conversations." The words hung in the air as I processed their meaning. My parents were excluding me from Christmas dinner because they were embarrassed by my unemployment. The daughter who had been their pride and joy had become a source of shame that needed to be hidden from their business associates. "I don't understand," I replied, struggling to maintain composure. "I'm still your daughter. I'm still the same person who worked hard and achieved success. I'm going through a difficult period, but that doesn't change who I am." My father's voice joined the conversation. "Elena, you need to understand that appearances matter in business. Our clients and partners expect to see success, not failure. Having an unemployed daughter at our Christmas dinner would raise questions about our judgment and stability." The conversation continued for another 15 minutes, but the decision had been made. They offered to have a separate celebration with me at a later date, but the message was clear. My presence would be an embarrassment that they could not tolerate during their important business gathering. After ending that phone call, I sat in my small apartment staring at the Christmas tree I had decorated in anticipation of spending the holiday with family. The loneliness was overwhelming, but beneath the pain, something else was emerging. The rejection had clarified my situation in a way that months of job searching had not. For the first time since losing my job, I stopped focusing on finding employment and started considering alternatives. The same analytical skills that had made me successful at Precision Dynamics could be applied to understanding my own situation and identifying opportunities that others missed. That evening, I made a decision that would ultimately transform rejection into opportunity. Instead of continuing to seek employment in a challenging market, I would develop my own business that leveraged my expertise in manufacturing optimization. The knowledge and experience I had gained could be valuable to companies facing the same challenges that had affected my previous employer. I spent the remainder of December developing a business plan for a manufacturing consulting practice. The approach would focus on small and medium-sized manufacturers who needed operational improvements, but could not afford the expensive consulting firms that served large corporations. My specialized knowledge and practical experience would provide value that traditional consultants could not match. The business model I developed addressed a genuine market need that I had observed during my job search. Many manufacturing companies were struggling with efficiency problems, but lacked the resources to implement comprehensive solutions. My approach would provide customized optimization strategies at costs that smaller companies could afford. The buy consulting practice I launched in January represented more than an alternative to traditional employment. It provided a way to apply my expertise directly to solving problems that I understood better than anyone else. The months of unemployment had given me insights into the manufacturing industry's challenges that would have been impossible to gain while employed at a single company. My first client was a small metal fabrication company that was struggling with production delays and cost overruns. The owner, David Kim, had heard about my background through a mutual contact and was willing to try a different approach to solving his operational problems. The project fee was modest, but it provided an opportunity to demonstrate the value of my methods. Within 6 weeks, I had identified inefficiencies that were costing Kim's company over $8,000 monthly. The solutions I implemented reduced waste by 40% and improved delivery times by 50%. The financial impact was immediate and substantial, providing Kim with cost savings that exceeded my consulting fee within the first month. Word of this success spread quickly within the local manufacturing community. Small business owners who had been struggling with similar problems began contacting me for assistance. Within 3 months, I had more potential clients than I could serve individually. The demand for my services led to the expansion of my business model. I began developing standardized assessment tools and implementation guides that would allow me to serve more clients efficiently. The systems I created were based on the same optimization principles I had applied at Precision Dynamics, but adapted for smaller companies with limited resources. By the end of my first year, my consulting practice had generated revenue of $180,000 and served over 30 clients. The success rate was remarkable. Every client who implemented my recommendations achieved measurable improvements in efficiency and profitability. My reputation as someone who could solve manufacturing problems had been established through proven results rather than credentials or marketing. The second year of my business brought opportunities that exceeded my initial expectations. Several clients requested expanded services beyond operational optimization, including strategic planning, market analysis, and growth consulting. My expertise had evolved beyond manufacturing processes to encompass broader business challenges. The most significant development came when I began working with Rodriguez Manufacturing Solutions, my parents' company. They had heard about my success through industry contacts and, swallowing their pride, requested my assistance with declining profitability and operational challenges. The irony was not lost on me. The same parents who had excluded me from Christmas, because of my unemployment, were now seeking my professional expertise to save their business. I accepted the engagement, but strictly as a business relationship rather than a family favor. The analysis I conducted revealed that Rodriguez Manufacturing Solutions was facing the same challenges that had affected many companies in the industry. However, their problems were compounded by outdated processes, inefficient resource allocation, and lack of strategic planning for market changes. My recommendations included comprehensive operational improvements that would require significant investment but would position the company for long-term success. The implementation would take 18 months and would fundamentally transform how they conducted business. This project marked the beginning of my transformation from consultant to business owner. The success of my recommendations and the growth of my client base had created opportunities that I had never anticipated when I started the consulting practice. The rejection that had seemed like the end of my career had actually been the beginning of success that exceeded anything I could have achieved through traditional employment. The pain of exclusion had provided the motivation necessary to create something extraordinary from circumstances that initially seemed devastating. As I prepared to share the complete story of this transformation, I want you to understand that every setback contains information about your comeback. Every rejection redirects you toward opportunities that you would never have discovered otherwise. The same circumstances that seem like failure often provide the foundation for success that exceeds your original ambitions. The journey from Christmas rejection to corporate acquisition represents more than personal vindication. It demonstrates that your current circumstances do not determine your future outcomes when you apply the right principles consistently over time. The story that follows will show you exactly how professional devastation became the catalyst for extraordinary achievement. The foundation of my eventual success was built during countless late nights in the Northwestern University Engineering Library, where I discovered that my mind possessed an unusual ability to see patterns and inefficiencies that others overlooked. This realization occurred during my sophomore year, while working on a thermodynamics project that required analyzing energy waste in industrial processes. While my classmates approached the assignment as a theoretical exercise, I became fascinated by the real-world implications of what we were studying. I spent hours beyond the required coursework researching actual manufacturing facilities, studying their energy consumption patterns, and identifying specific areas where engineering principles could generate substantial cost savings. This deep dive into practical applications would later prove crucial to my transformation from unemployed engineer to successful entrepreneur. Professor David Langston, who taught our Advanced Manufacturing Systems course, noticed my tendency to connect theoretical concepts with practical solutions. During my junior year, he invited me to participate in his research project examining lean manufacturing implementation in small and medium-sized enterprises. This opportunity provided my first exposure to the challenges that would later become the foundation of my consulting business. The research project required visiting manufacturing facilities throughout Illinois, Wisconsin, and Indiana, documenting their production processes and identifying opportunities for efficiency improvements. I interviewed plant managers, observed assembly line operations, and analyzed financial data that revealed how seemingly minor inefficiencies could accumulate into significant financial losses. At Midwest Precision Components in Milwaukee, I observed a metal stamping operation where the setup time between product runs consumed nearly 30% of total production capacity. The plant manager, Robert Chen, explained that they had accepted this inefficiency as unavoidable because their product mix required frequent changeovers between different part specifications. I spent 3 days studying their changeover process, timing each step and identifying bottlenecks that extended setup duration unnecessarily. My analysis revealed that simple reorganization of tools and materials could reduce changeover time by 60%, effectively increasing their production capacity by 18% without additional equipment investment. When I presented these findings to Chen, His reaction was immediate and enthusiastic. "In 20 years of manufacturing, nobody has ever shown me how to solve this problem," he said. "Your recommendations could add hundreds of thousands of dollars to our annual profitability." This validation confirmed that my analytical approach could generate genuine value for manufacturing companies. Similar patterns emerged at every facility I visited during the research project. Companies were losing substantial money through inefficiencies that had become accepted as normal operating conditions. Traditional consulting firms were either too expensive for smaller manufacturers or focused on large-scale implementations that did not address their specific challenges. This experience revealed a significant market opportunity that would later become the foundation of my business. Small and medium-sized manufacturers needed optimization expertise but lacked access to affordable solutions that addressed their unique constraints and requirements. My senior thesis project focused on developing a systematic methodology for implementing lean manufacturing principles in companies with fewer than 200 employees. This demographic represented the majority of manufacturing businesses but received minimal attention from academic researchers or consulting firms that focused on larger organizations. The methodology I developed incorporated elements of traditional lean manufacturing, but adapted them for the resource constraints and operational realities that smaller companies faced. Rather than requiring expensive consultants or extensive training programs, my approach emphasized simple, implementable changes that could generate immediate results. The research required extensive fieldwork and data collection that provided insights into the specific challenges that smaller manufacturers encountered. I documented case studies from 15 different companies, measuring the financial impact of various optimization strategies and identifying which approaches delivered the best return on investment. One particularly significant case study involved Heritage Tool and Die, a family-owned manufacturer in Rockford that employed 43 people and produced custom tooling for the automotive industry. The company was struggling with declining profitability despite steady demand for their products. My analysis revealed that their production planning process was creating unnecessary complexity that increased costs throughout their operation. They were scheduling jobs based on customer deadlines rather than optimizing for efficient material flow and machine utilization. This approach required excessive inventory, extended production cycles, and created coordination problems that affected quality and delivery performance. I developed a revised production planning system that balanced customer requirements with operational efficiency. The implementation reduced work-in-process inventory by 40%, shortened average production cycles by 25%, and improved on-time delivery performance from 78% to 96%. The financial impact was substantial. Heritage Tool and Die reduced their operating costs by $87,000 annually, while improving customer satisfaction and creating capacity for additional business. Company owner Margaret Walsh credited my recommendations with saving her business from potential closure. Elena's analysis identified problems that we had lived with for years without understanding their true cost, Walsh explained. Her solutions were practical and achievable, not theoretical concepts that we couldn't implement with our resources. This feedback reinforced my understanding that effective consulting required more than technical knowledge. Success depended on developing solutions that were appropriate for the client's specific circumstances and capabilities. My thesis research attracted attention beyond Northwestern University when Professor Langston presented our findings at the National Manufacturing Conference in Detroit. The presentation, titled Lean Manufacturing Adaptation for Small and Medium Enterprises, generated significant interest from industry professionals and academic researchers. Several manufacturing executives approached me after the presentation to discuss applying my methodology within their organizations. These conversations provided insights into the commercial potential of my research and reinforced my confidence in the practical value of my analytical approach. The thesis received the Outstanding Undergraduate Research Award from the College of Engineering, recognition that validated the quality and significance of my work. More importantly, the research had established my expertise in an area that represented a substantial market opportunity. Dr. Sarah Chen, my faculty advisor, encouraged me to consider graduate school or entrepreneurial applications of my research. Elena, your work addresses real problems that established companies struggle to solve, she explained during our final meeting. You have developed expertise that could make a significant impact in the manufacturing industry. Her encouragement reinforced my belief that I possessed knowledge and skills that could translate into professional success. The combination of academic excellence and practical business insights seemed to guarantee rapid advancement in the manufacturing sector. During my final semester, I was recruited by several companies that had learned about my research through industry publications and conference presentations. The attention from potential employers confirmed that my specialized expertise was valued in the marketplace and would provide competitive advantages in my career development. The position at Precision Dynamics represented everything I had hoped to achieve upon graduation. The company manufactured precision components for automotive and aerospace applications, employing over 300 people across 2 facilities in Illinois and Michigan. Their reputation for quality and innovation made them an ideal environment for applying my optimization expertise. My initial assignment involved analyzing their production scheduling system to identify opportunities for efficiency improvements. The project provided an opportunity to implement the same analytical methods that had been successful during my academic research, but within a larger and more complex manufacturing environment. The analysis revealed systematic inefficiencies that were costing Precision Dynamics approximately $40,000 monthly in unnecessary overtime, expedited materials, and production delays. The scheduling system had evolved over time without comprehensive review, creating coordination problems that affected multiple departments. I developed a revised scheduling methodology that balanced production capacity with customer requirements while minimizing disruption to established workflows. The implementation required extensive collaboration with production supervisors, materials managers, and quality control personnel to ensure that the new system would function effectively within their operational constraints. The results exceeded management expectations. The new scheduling system reduced overtime costs by 38%, decreased expedited material purchases by 52%, and improved on-time delivery performance from 84% to 97%. The financial impact totaled over $400,000 annually in reduced costs and improved efficiency. Michael Torres, my supervisor, recognized the significance of these improvements and recommended me for accelerated advancement within the operations department. Elena's analytical capabilities and practical approach to problem-solving make her exceptionally valuable to our organization, he wrote in my first performance review. The success of my initial project led to expanded responsibilities that allowed me to apply my optimization expertise across multiple areas of Precision Dynamics operations. I was assigned to analyze their inventory management system, supplier coordination processes, and quality control procedures. Each analysis revealed opportunities for improvement that generated substantial cost savings and operational benefits. The inventory management project reduced carrying costs by 23% while improving parts availability. The supplier coordination improvements decreased material costs by 12% and reduced delivery delays by 60%. These successes established my reputation within Precision Dynamics as someone who could identify and solve complex operational problems. My recommendations were implemented without resistance, because they consistently delivered measurable improvements that benefited the entire organization. Within 18 months, I was promoted to Senior Operations Analyst with responsibility for overseeing efficiency improvements across all production facilities. The position provided management experience and exposure to strategic decision-making processes that would later prove valuable during my entrepreneurial phase. My team of analysts implemented optimization projects that generated over $1 million in annual cost savings for Precision Dynamics. The success of these initiatives attracted attention from industry publications and professional organizations that recognized our achievements as examples of best practices in manufacturing optimization. Throughout this period of professional success, my relationship with my parents reflected their immense pride in my achievements and their expectations for continued advancement. Roberto and Maria Rodriguez had sacrificed significantly to provide me with educational opportunities, and my success validated their investment in my future. During family gatherings, my father frequently discussed the challenges facing Rodriguez, manufacturing solutions, and sought my input on potential improvements. Elena, your expertise in manufacturing optimization could help us compete more effectively with larger companies, he would explain. Your education and experience provide insights that we need to grow our business. These conversations reinforced my confidence in the value of my expertise and created expectations about my continued professional advancement. My parents viewed my success as the beginning of a trajectory that would lead to senior management, positions, and financial security that exceeded their own achievements. My mother often shared details about my career accomplishments with friends and extended family members, clearly taking pride in having raised a daughter who had achieved professional recognition. Their support provided motivation and confidence that strengthened my commitment to continued excellence. This family dynamic created emotional investments that would later make my professional setback feel particularly devastating. I had become accustomed to being the source of family pride, the daughter whose achievements justified their sacrifices and exceeded their expectations. The expectations that developed during this successful period would later contribute to my parents' disappointment when unemployment disrupted the trajectory they had anticipated. The same pride that had motivated their support would eventually become a source of embarrassment that led to my exclusion from family celebrations. The knowledge, experience, and confidence I developed during my early career provided the foundation for everything that would follow. The analytical skills that generated success at Precision Dynamics would later become the basis for my consulting business. The understanding of manufacturing challenges that I gained through various projects would inform the solutions I developed for my own clients. Most importantly, the recognition I received for solving complex operational problems established my credibility as someone who could identify opportunities that others overlooked. This reputation would prove crucial when I needed to attract clients during the early stages of my consulting practice. The relationships I developed with industry professionals during this successful period would later provide referrals and recommendations that helped establish my independent business. The network of contacts I built through conference presentations and project implementations became valuable resources during my transition from employee to entrepreneur. The confidence I gained from consistently delivering measurable improvements prepared me for the challenges of building a business from nothing. The same analytical approach that had been successful within established organizations would prove effective when applied to developing new business models and identifying market opportunities. Without realizing it at the time, my early career success was providing the preparation necessary for the transformation that would follow. The expertise I developed, the reputation I established, and the confidence I gained would all prove essential when unemployment forced me to create alternatives to traditional employment. The foundation that seemed like preparation for conventional career advancement actually equipped me for entrepreneurial success that would exceed anything achievable through traditional employment. The knowledge and experience I thought were leading toward senior management positions ultimately enabled me to become a business owner who would employ the same types of managers I had once aspired to become. The first indication that my carefully constructed professional world was about to collapse arrived during what should have been a routine monthly operations review at Precision Dynamics. The conference room where I had presented successful optimization projects for over 2 years suddenly felt different as Michael Torres entered with an expression that immediately signaled trouble. His usual confidence had been replaced by the gravity of someone who understood that difficult decisions were imminent. The automotive sector downturn has accelerated beyond our most pessimistic projections, Torres announced, his voice carrying the weight of implications that would affect every person in the room. Ford has terminated their contract effective. Immediately, General Motors has reduced their quarterly orders by 78%, and Chrysler is demanding price reductions that would eliminate our profit margins entirely. The financial data he presented revealed the scope of the crisis that was engulfing our industry. Revenue projections for the next 12 months showed a decline of 56% compared to the previous year, with no realistic prospects for recovery in the foreseeable future. The stable contracts that had provided the foundation for our business model had been systematically canceled or renegotiated under terms that threatened our survival. Dr. Patricia Vega, our Chief Financial Officer, supplemented Torres's presentation with analyses that quantified the severity of our situation. We are facing an existential threat that requires immediate and comprehensive cost reduction, she explained. Without dramatic restructuring, Precision Dynamics will cease operations. Within 6 months, the methodical approach to downsizing that followed demonstrated how quickly years of growth and success could be dismantled when external forces beyond organizational control created industry-wide disruption. The expansion plans that had been approved just months earlier were immediately canceled. The equipment purchases that would have improved our competitive position were postponed indefinitely. Most significantly for my circumstances, the operational optimization initiatives that had been my primary responsibility were suddenly classified as non-essential expenses rather than strategic investments. The analytical work that had generated over $1 million in annual cost savings was now viewed as a luxury that the company could no longer afford. The systematic elimination of my responsibilities began with the cancellation of projects that had been approved and initiated during more optimistic periods. The inventory management system redesign that would have revolutionized our supply chain coordination was terminated despite 6 months of development work that had already demonstrated significant potential benefits. The supplier relationship optimization program that had been generating measurable cost reductions was suspended indefinitely, despite preliminary results that exceeded our most optimistic projections. The leverage that qualified candidates had previously enjoyed in salary negotiations had been eliminated by the oversupply of experienced professionals seeking employment. Position requirements had become increasingly specific and demanding as employers used the competitive environment to seek candidates who precisely matched their immediate needs, rather than professionals who could grow into roles through training and development. The flexibility that had previously characterized hiring practices was replaced by rigid specifications that eliminated many qualified candidates from consideration. The application process itself had become more time-intensive and impersonal, as companies implemented screening procedures designed to manage the overwhelming number of applications they were receiving for each available position. Automated systems filtered applications based on keyword matching rather than comprehensive evaluation of candidate qualifications and potential contributions. Interview processes that had previously focused on cultural fit and growth potential became intensive evaluations of technical skills and immediate productivity capabilities. Companies were seeking candidates who could contribute value immediately, rather than professionals who represented long-term investment opportunities. Professional references who had previously provided enthusiastic recommendations began expressing concern about my extended unemployment period and suggesting that I consider positions below my qualification level or in different industries entirely. The support network that had facilitated previous career transitions was becoming a source of pressure to accept whatever employment became available. The professional setback that I had initially presented to my parents as a temporary challenge became a source of growing concern and disappointment as my unemployment extended beyond the time frame they considered reasonable for someone with my qualifications and experience. Their pride in my achievements was gradually replaced by anxiety about my career prospects and frustration with my apparent inability to secure appropriate employment. Roberto Rodriguez began expressing doubt about my job search strategy during our weekly conversations, suggesting that I was being too selective in my applications or failing to present myself effectively during interviews. Elena, perhaps you should consider positions outside manufacturing or accept lower compensation temporarily, he advised. Any employment is preferable to continued unemployment. Maria Rodriguez focused on the social implications of my extended unemployment and its impact on their reputation within their business community. People are beginning to ask questions about your situation, she explained. I am finding it increasingly difficult to explain why someone with your education and experience remains unemployed for such an extended period. These conversations revealed how my professional crisis was affecting my parents' social standing and business relationships. The daughter who had been a source of pride was becoming a source of embarrassment that required explanation or justification to their professional peers and social contacts. The expectations that had developed during my successful career created additional pressure as my parents struggled to reconcile their image of my capabilities with the reality of my employment difficulties. They had become accustomed to sharing news about my professional achievements and found the absence of positive developments increasingly uncomfortable. The distance that developed in our relationship was gradual but unmistakable. Phone calls became less frequent and more focused on practical job search advice rather than emotional support. Family gatherings became less comfortable as conversations about my situation dominated interactions that had previously been sources of enjoyment and connection. As December approached, marking nearly 10 months since my initial layoff notice, the employment situation that I had expected to resolve quickly had become a prolonged crisis with no clear resolution in sight. The financial pressure had intensified to the point where basic survival was becoming increasingly difficult to maintain. The Christmas season that had traditionally been a source of joy and family connection became a reminder of how dramatically my circumstances had changed and how far I had fallen from the success that had previously characterized my life. The holiday celebrations that should have provided comfort during difficult times instead highlighted the extent of my professional and personal failures. The phone conversation with my parents on December 18th represented the culmination of months of growing disappointment and embarrassment about my circumstances. Their decision to exclude me from Christmas dinner because of my unemployment status confirmed that my professional failure had cost me not only my career and financial security, but also my place within my own family structure. The rejection that followed was comprehensive and devastating. Every foundation that had supported my adult identity had been systematically destroyed by circumstances beyond my control, and my inability to recover within the time frame that others considered reasonable for someone with my qualifications. Yet this complete destruction would ultimately prove to be the necessary clearing of ground for construction of something entirely different and more valuable than what had been lost. The devastation that seemed like the end of my story was actually the preparation for transformation that would exceed my original ambitions by orders of magnitude and provide the foundation for success that traditional employment paths could never have achieved. The hours following my parents' phone call on December 18th stretched endlessly as I sat in my modest apartment, surrounded by evidence of a life that had fundamentally changed. The Christmas decorations I had optimistically arranged now seemed to mock my circumstances, serving as reminders of celebrations I would not attend and connections I had apparently lost. The rejection from my own family crystallized the complete isolation that 9 months of unemployment had created. That evening marked the first time I genuinely considered that my professional recovery might not follow the timeline I had envisioned. The hundreds of applications, dozens of interviews, and countless networking conversations had produced nothing except deeper understanding of how dramatically the manufacturing employment landscape had shifted. The expertise that had once made me valuable seemed irrelevant in a market where survival took precedence over optimization. The financial calculations I performed that night revealed the stark reality of my situation. My savings account contained $1,947, barely sufficient to cover January rent and basic utilities. Credit card balances had grown to over $23,000 as I maintained minimum payments while covering living expenses that exceeded my unemployment benefits. The student loan payments I had deferred were accumulating interest that would make future repayment increasingly difficult. More significantly, the unemployment benefits that had provided minimal financial support were scheduled to expire on January 15th. Without immediate employment, I would face complete financial collapse within 3 weeks. The urgency of this timeline eliminated any remaining luxury of being selective about employment opportunities. The classified advertisements I reviewed that morning contained positions that would have been unthinkable considerations during my period of professional success. Retail sales positions, customer service roles, and temporary administrative assignments represented dramatic departures from my career trajectory, but they offered immediate income that could prevent financial catastrophe. One advertisement captured my attention despite representing everything I had hoped to avoid. Administrative assistant needed for Rodriguez Manufacturing Solutions. Immediate opening. Experience with manufacturing processes preferred. $18 per hour, full benefits. Contact Roberto Rodriguez for interview. The irony of my parents' company seeking administrative help while excluding me from family celebrations was not lost on me, though I was too desperate to appreciate the cosmic humor. The decision to apply for positions significantly below my qualifications required confronting assumptions about professional identity that had shaped my self-concept for years. The engineering degree that had been a source of pride became evidence of overqualification that might disqualify me from positions I desperately needed. The management experience that had differentiated me from other candidates now seemed like a liability in a job market that prioritized immediate availability over long-term potential. I revised my resume to emphasize basic skills rather than strategic accomplishments, removing references to cost savings, process improvements, and analytical methodologies that had defined my professional contributions. The document that resulted bore little resemblance to the comprehensive record of achievement I had developed during successful periods, but it positioned me as a candidate for positions that required competence rather than expertise. The psychological adjustment required to pursue these opportunities was more challenging than the practical modifications to my application materials. Each position I considered represented a fundamental redefinition of my professional expectations and personal ambitions. The career trajectory that had seemed inevitable during my successful period was being replaced by survival strategies that prioritized immediate income over long-term advancement. The quality improvement initiatives that had been reducing defect rates and improving customer satisfaction were discontinued as the company focused exclusively on maintaining basic manufacturing operations. These cancellations represented more than project delays or budget adjustments. They eliminated the work that had defined my professional value and established my reputation within the organization. The expertise that had made me indispensable during periods of growth and expansion was suddenly irrelevant when survival required focusing on core manufacturing functions rather than operational enhancement. My role evolved from strategic analyst to documentation specialist, a transition that felt like professional regression rather than adaptation to changing circumstances. Instead of identifying opportunities for improvement and developing implementation strategies, I was assigned to document which activities could be eliminated to reduce operational expenses. The irony was particularly painful. The same analytical skills that had been used to optimize operations were now being applied to systematically dismantle the systems and processes I had developed. The methodologies that had created value were being used to identify which valuable activities could be sacrificed to preserve basic organizational survival. The collaborative relationships that had made my work rewarding were strained by uncertainty about who would survive the continuing restructuring efforts. Colleagues who had previously sought my input on operational challenges began avoiding conversations about the future, recognizing that discussing improvement initiatives was inappropriate when layoffs were imminent. James Morrison, a production supervisor who had been instrumental in implementing several of my optimization projects, expressed the sentiment that many felt but few verbalized. Elena, I want you to understand that what's happening has nothing to do with your capabilities or contributions, he said during a particularly difficult conversation. Your work has been exceptional, but exceptional performance isn't enough when the entire industry is collapsing. The challenges at Precision Dynamics were symptomatic of systematic problems affecting the entire manufacturing sector throughout the Midwest. The automotive industry crisis had created a cascading effect that impacted suppliers, component manufacturers, and service providers in ways that transcended individual company performance or strategic planning. Regional manufacturing employment declined by 24% within 6 months, with additional reductions anticipated as companies continued adjusting to dramatically reduced demand. Organizations that had seemed financially stable and strategically positioned were suddenly implementing emergency cost reduction measures or facing potential closure. The professional networks that had previously provided opportunities for career advancement became sources of increasingly dire information about industry prospects. Conference calls with former colleagues revealed similar downsizing initiatives at companies throughout the region, creating a competitive environment where experienced professionals were competing for a diminishing number of available positions. Trade associations and professional organizations began hosting seminars focused on career transition strategies and alternative employment options, rather than their traditional emphasis on technical development and industry advancement. The frequency and attendance at these programs demonstrated how widespread the employment crisis had become across our sector. The manufacturing publications that had previously featured success stories about operational improvements and technological innovations began publishing articles about survival strategies and business model adaptation. The optimism that had characterized industry discourse was replaced by realistic assessments of challenges that would require fundamental changes to traditional approaches. Networking events that had once been opportunities for sharing best practices and exploring collaborative initiatives became gatherings where professionals discussed unemployment experiences and job search strategies. The collaborative spirit that had strengthened our industry was being replaced by competition for limited opportunities. The stress created by professional uncertainty began affecting my personal relationships in ways that I had not anticipated during previous challenges in my career. The confidence and optimism that had made me an engaging partner and supportive friend were gradually replaced by anxiety and preoccupation with an uncertain future. My relationship with David Martinez, whom I had been dating for nearly a year, became strained as financial concerns and career uncertainty created tension about our shared future. David worked in commercial real estate development, a sector that was experiencing its own significant challenges, and our combined professional instability created dynamics that neither of us was equipped to manage effectively. Conversations that had previously focused on shared interests, travel plans, and relationship development increasingly centered on employment prospects, financial concerns, and the practical implications of extended career uncertainty. The relationship that had provided emotional support and companionship during successful periods became another source of stress during this period of professional crisis. The deterioration culminated in a conversation that revealed how professional challenges can undermine personal relationships even when both parties remain committed to working through difficulties together. Elena, I care about you deeply, but we're both dealing with too much uncertainty to make long-term commitments, David explained during what would become our final dinner together as a couple. His reasoning was logical and understandable given our circumstances, but the decision represented another significant loss during a period when I was already struggling to maintain emotional equilibrium. The personal rejection compounded the professional setbacks and created a comprehensive sense of failure that affected every aspect of my daily experience. Similar patterns emerged in friendships with colleagues and professional contacts who were facing their own career challenges. Relationships that had been built around shared professional experiences became awkward as our circumstances diverged or as we all struggled with similar employment difficulties that left little emotional energy for supporting others. Social gatherings that had previously provided opportunities for relaxation and enjoyment became uncomfortable reminders of how dramatically my circumstances had changed. The financial constraints that accompanied unemployment made it difficult to participate in activities that required discretionary spending, creating additional barriers to maintaining social connections. The financial pressure that accompanied professional uncertainty created immediate concerns about maintaining basic living standards and meeting existing financial obligations. The savings that had seemed adequate for emergencies depleted rapidly. When faced with the extended unemployment that had become increasingly likely as industry conditions continued deteriorating, the monthly expenses that had been manageable with regular employment income became overwhelming obligations when unemployment benefits provided only a fraction of my previous compensation. The apartment rent that had represented less than 25% of my take-home pay suddenly consumed over 60% of my reduced income. Credit card balances increased steadily as I maintained minimum payments on existing obligations while covering basic living expenses that exceeded my unemployment benefits. The debt accumulation created additional anxiety about my ability to recover financially, even if employment opportunities eventually materialized in the improving economic conditions that seemed increasingly unlikely. The student loans that I had been repaying steadily during my successful career became another source of financial pressure when the servicer refused my request for payment deferral. The monthly obligations that had been routine during employment became impossible to meet without depleting the savings I needed to preserve for basic survival expenses. Food and transportation costs required careful budgeting that affected every aspect of my daily routine. The grocery expenses that had never required consideration during my successful period became significant budget items that influenced meal planning and nutritional choices. The fuel costs for job interviews and networking events reduced the resources available for other necessary expenses. The psychological impact of financial constraint was as challenging as the practical limitations it imposed. The freedom and confidence that financial security had provided were replaced by constant calculation and worry about every expenditure. The generosity and spontaneity that had characterized my approach to money during successful periods were replaced by careful budgeting and deferred gratification. The job search that I initiated immediately after receiving notice of my impending layoff revealed how dramatically the employment landscape had changed during the months leading up to my termination. The manufacturing sector that had previously offered abundant opportunities for qualified professionals had become intensely competitive as experienced candidates competed for limited available positions. Companies that were hiring often offered positions at compensation levels significantly below industry standards, with reduced benefits and limited advancement potential. My first interview was for a receptionist position at Miller Logistics, a transportation company that coordinated freight movement throughout the Midwest. The office manager, Sandra Williams, reviewed my abbreviated resume with obvious confusion about why someone with my background would be interested in answering phones and greeting visitors. "This seems like a significant change from your previous work," Williams observed. "Are you certain this position would meet your career objectives?" Her question highlighted the disconnect between my qualifications and the role I was pursuing, but it also provided an opportunity to demonstrate my commitment to immediate employment rather than continued job searching. "I am focused on contributing value to an organization while rebuilding my career momentum," I replied, utilizing language that positioned my circumstances as temporary adaptation rather than professional failure. "This position would provide stability while I develop new skills and identify growth opportunities within your company." The interview proceeded professionally, though Williams clearly remained uncertain about my motivations and long-term commitment. Her concerns were reasonable given the obvious mismatch between my background and the position requirements. She concluded by explaining that they would make a decision within the week and contact all candidates regardless of the outcome. The following 3 weeks produced a series of interviews that followed similar patterns. Employers were invariably confused by the contrast between my qualifications and their position requirements, often questioning my motivations or expressing concern about my long-term commitment to roles that offered limited advancement potential. At Midwest Office Solutions, the hiring manager, Kevin Thompson, was direct about his concerns. "Elena, your background suggests you would be looking for other opportunities as soon as the manufacturing market recovers," he explained. "We need someone who will be satisfied with this position for the foreseeable future." These conversations revealed a fundamental challenge that I had not anticipated. My qualifications, which should have made me an attractive candidate, were actually creating barriers to employment in positions that I genuinely needed. Employers assumed that I would abandon their organizations as soon as better opportunities became available, making me a risky investment despite my obvious capabilities. The customer service position at Great Lakes Insurance required phone skills and basic computer knowledge that I possessed in abundance, but the manager, Patricia Chen, expressed concern about cultural fit. "Our environment is very different from manufacturing management," she explained. "We need someone who will be comfortable with routine tasks and detailed procedures." Her implication was clear. My background in strategic analysis and process optimization might make me unsuitable for work that required following established procedures rather than questioning or improving them. The analytical mindset that had been my greatest professional asset was now perceived as potentially disruptive to organizations that valued consistency over innovation. The temporary agency positions that should have provided immediate placement opportunities produced similar challenges. Staffing coordinators frequently suggested that I was overqualified for available assignments and would be better served by continuing to pursue positions more aligned with my experience and education. By mid-January, with unemployment benefits exhausted and no employment prospects materializing, the financial pressure reached crisis levels. The savings account that had provided minimal security was completely depleted. Credit card companies were demanding minimum payments that exceeded my non-existent income. The student loan servicer had begun sending notices about resuming required payments that I had no means to provide. The landlord, Mrs. Patterson, who had been understanding about late rent payments during the previous months, scheduled a meeting to discuss my lease obligations. "Elena, I sympathize with your situation, but I have my own financial responsibilities," she explained. "If you cannot provide January rent by the end of the week, I will need to begin eviction proceedings." The prospect of homelessness added urgency that eliminated any remaining selectivity about employment opportunities. I expanded my applications to include positions that required no previous experience and offered immediate starting dates, regardless of compensation levels or advancement potential. Food assistance programs that I had never imagined needing became necessary resources for basic nutrition. The local food bank provided groceries that prevented hunger while preserving the minimal cash I retained for transportation to job interviews. The volunteers who managed these programs were invariably kind and respectful, but the experience reinforced how dramatically my circumstances had changed. The psychological impact of requiring charity was as challenging as the practical limitations it addressed. The independence and self-sufficiency that had characterized my adult life were replaced by dependence on social services that I had previously supported through taxes and donations, rather than personal need. The position that would ultimately provide employment emerged from an unlikely source. Jennifer Walsh, whom I had met during my research at Heritage Tool and Die, contacted me about a temporary opportunity at her company. She had learned about my situation through professional networks and wanted to offer assistance despite her own company's limited resources. "Elena, we have a short-term project that requires analytical skills and manufacturing knowledge," she explained during our phone conversation. "The compensation is modest and the assignment is temporary, but it might provide some income while you continue your job search." The project involved analyzing supplier performance data to identify opportunities for cost reduction and quality improvement. The work was directly aligned with my expertise and would provide $25 per hour for an estimated 6-week engagement. While the position was temporary and offered no benefits, it represented the first opportunity to utilize my professional skills since my layoff at Precision Dynamics. My acceptance was immediate and enthusiastic. The project would generate approximately $6,000 in total compensation, sufficient to address my most pressing financial obligations, while providing time to continue pursuing permanent employment opportunities. More importantly, it would enable me to apply my analytical capabilities to real business challenges, rather than simply surviving through survival employment. The first day at Heritage Tool & Die felt like a return to professional relevance. After months of rejection and marginalization, the office environment, manufacturing processes, and operational challenges were familiar contexts where my expertise could generate genuine value. The warm reception from employees who remembered my previous research provided emotional validation that had been absent during my unemployment period. The supplier performance analysis revealed significant opportunities for improvement that demonstrated the continued relevance of my analytical capabilities. Heritage Tool & Die was purchasing materials from 17 different suppliers without systematic evaluation of their cost, quality, or delivery performance. The lack of coordinated procurement was creating inefficiencies that affected their entire operation. My analysis identified 4 suppliers whose performance consistently exceeded their competitors across multiple evaluation criteria. Consolidating. Purchases with these preferred vendors would reduce material costs by 12%, while improving quality consistency and delivery reliability. The financial impact would exceed $47,000 annually for a company that employed fewer than 50 people. Jennifer Walsh was enthusiastic about the recommendations and immediately began implementing the supplier consolidation strategy. Elena, this analysis demonstrates exactly why your skills are valuable to manufacturing companies, she said. Your ability to identify these opportunities could help many businesses improve their operations. Her feedback reinforced my understanding that my expertise remained relevant and valuable despite the employment challenges I had experienced. The problem was not lack of capability, but rather the systematic disruption that had affected the entire manufacturing employment market. The success of this project provided psychological benefits that exceeded its financial compensation. The confidence and professional identity that had eroded during months of unemployment began to recover as I applied my knowledge to solve real business problems. The validation of my analytical capabilities restored optimism about my ability to rebuild my career. Jennifer Walsh's satisfaction with my work led to referrals to other small manufacturers who were facing similar challenges. The professional network that had seemed disconnected from employment opportunities began generating consulting projects that utilized my specialized expertise. Milwaukee Precision Components needed analysis of their production scheduling system to reduce lead times and improve customer satisfaction. The project required 3 weeks of part-time work and would generate $4,200 in compensation. More importantly, it provided additional evidence that my skills could address real business needs despite the challenging employment environment. Great Lakes Manufacturing requested assistance with inventory management optimization to reduce carrying costs while maintaining service levels. This engagement would provide $5,500 in compensation over 2 months, while allowing me to apply methodologies I had developed during my successful period at Precision Dynamics. These consulting opportunities represented a fundamental shift in my approach to employment recovery. Rather than seeking traditional positions within established organizations, I was creating value directly for companies that needed my expertise. The consulting model provided flexibility and immediate compensation while building a portfolio of successful projects that demonstrated my capabilities. The financial benefits were significant, but not sufficient for long-term sustainability. The combined compensation from these initial projects would total approximately $15,700 over 4 months, substantially less than my previous salary, but adequate to address immediate financial pressures while I developed a more comprehensive business strategy. The positive response to my consulting services revealed market demand that had been invisible during my traditional job search efforts. Small and medium-sized manufacturers needed operational expertise, but lacked resources to engage expensive consulting firms that served larger clients. My background and approach provided solutions that were both effective and affordable for companies facing their own financial pressures. The success of these initial projects generated referrals that created additional opportunities faster than I could fulfill them individually. The demand exceeded my capacity to serve clients while maintaining the thorough analysis and implementation support that had made my recommendations successful. This recognition marked a fundamental transition in my thinking about employment recovery. Rather than viewing consulting as temporary income while pursuing traditional employment, I began considering it as a potential foundation for independent business development. The market demand was evident, my capabilities were proven, and the financial results were encouraging despite the modest scale of individual projects. The consulting work also provided insights into common challenges that affected multiple companies within the manufacturing sector. The supplier performance issues at Heritage Tool and Die were representative of problems that I observed at several client companies. Similarly, the production scheduling inefficiencies and inventory management challenges appeared to be systematic issues that affected many small manufacturers. These patterns suggested opportunities for developing standardized methodologies and implementation tools that could serve multiple clients efficiently. Rather than conducting individual analyses for each company, I could create assessment frameworks and improvement processes that would reduce the time required for each engagement while maintaining the quality of results that clients expected. By March, 4 months after my parents' Christmas rejection, my circumstances had begun stabilizing through consulting work that utilized my professional expertise rather than requiring me to accept positions below my qualifications. The financial pressure that had threatened homelessness was replaced by modest but adequate income that covered basic living expenses while I developed my client base. More importantly, the consulting experiences were providing education about independent business development that would prove invaluable for future growth. I was learning about client acquisition, project management, pricing strategies, and service delivery in ways that traditional employment would never have taught me. The rejection that had seemed like complete failure was revealing itself as redirection toward opportunities that offered greater potential than anything I could have achieved through continued traditional employment. The devastation that had destroyed my conventional career was clearing space for construction of something entirely different and ultimately more valuable. The consulting work that began as survival strategy was evolving into the foundation for business development that would eventually enable me to purchase my parents' company and transform the rejection that had broken my heart into the ultimate professional vindication. The position I had been forced to accept was actually preparation for success that would exceed my original ambitions by orders of magnitude. The consulting projects that provided financial stability during the spring months revealed patterns of inefficiency across multiple manufacturing companies that transcended individual organizational problems. Each engagement exposed systematic challenges that affected the broader small manufacturing sector, creating opportunities for developing comprehensive solutions rather than addressing isolated issues at individual companies. My work at Heritage Tool and Die, Milwaukee Precision Components, and Great Lakes Manufacturing provided access to operational data and management insights that would have been impossible to obtain through traditional employment arrangements. As an external consultant focused on specific improvement projects, I gained visibility into financial performance, strategic planning processes, and competitive challenges that companies rarely shared with employees or conventional service providers. The analytical approach I developed during these early consulting engagements emphasized comprehensive data collection and pattern recognition across multiple operational areas. Rather than focusing narrowly on the specific problems that clients Initially identified, I conducted thorough assessments that examined interconnected processes and identified root causes that often extended beyond their immediate concerns. At Heritage Tool and Die, the supplier consolidation project revealed procurement inefficiencies that were symptomatic of broader coordination challenges affecting their entire operation. The lack of systematic communication between departments created redundant activities, delayed decision-making, and missed opportunities for cost reduction that extended far beyond their purchasing processes. My analysis documented how information silos between production planning, quality control, and customer service departments were creating inefficiencies that affected every aspect of their business. The production team scheduled work based on manufacturing convenience without considering quality requirements or delivery commitments. Quality control identified defects without communicating trends that could prevent future problems. Customer service managed complaints reactively rather than identifying patterns that could guide operational improvements. These observations led to recommendations that addressed systemic coordination problems rather than merely optimizing individual processes. The comprehensive approach generated cost savings that exceeded client expectations, while establishing my reputation for identifying opportunities that other consultants overlooked. The success of my comprehensive analytical approach created demand for similar assessments at other client companies. Rather than conducting entirely customized analyses for each engagement, I began developing standardized methodologies that could efficiently identify common inefficiencies while maintaining the thoroughness that generated exceptional results. The manufacturing efficiency assessment protocol I created incorporated systematic evaluation procedures for procurement, production planning, quality management, inventory control, and customer service coordination. The standardized approach reduced the time required for data collection and analysis, while ensuring that no critical operational areas were overlooked during client engagements. The protocol included detailed questionnaires for management interviews, data collection templates for financial and operational metrics, process mapping procedures for documenting workflow inefficiencies, and standardized reporting formats that presented findings in actionable terms that clients could implement immediately. Milwaukee Precision Components became the first client to experience the complete assessment protocol. The systematic evaluation revealed 43 specific opportunities for improvement, ranging from simple procedural changes that could be implemented immediately to strategic initiatives that would require several months of coordinated effort. The comprehensive nature of the assessment impressed company leadership and generated implementation results that exceeded their expectations. Within 6 months, they had achieved cost reductions of $127,000 annually while improving delivery, performance, and product quality measures that enhanced their competitive position. The success at Milwaukee Precision Components created referrals that established my reputation within the regional manufacturing community. Business owners began recommending my services to colleagues who were facing similar operational challenges, creating a pipeline of potential clients that exceeded my capacity to serve individually. The growing demand for my analytical services created opportunities to expand beyond individual consulting projects toward more comprehensive business relationships that provided ongoing value to client companies. Rather than conducting one-time assessments and moving to new clients, I began offering implementation support and performance monitoring services that ensured sustainable results from my recommendations. Great Lakes Manufacturing requested extended engagement to oversee implementation of the inventory management improvements I had recommended. The project required 6 months of part-time involvement to redesign their procurement processes, train personnel on new procedures, and monitor performance metrics that would validate the effectiveness of the changes. This expanded engagement model proved beneficial for both client outcomes and my business development objectives. Clients achieved better results through professional implementation support, while I generated more substantial revenue from each relationship and developed deeper understanding of the challenges that companies faced during operational improvement initiatives. The implementation support work also revealed additional opportunities for value creation that were not apparent during initial assessments. As companies began executing my recommendations, they encountered coordination challenges and resource constraints that required ongoing analytical support to resolve effectively. These experiences led to development of comprehensive business improvement programs that combined initial assessment, detailed implementation planning, personnel training, and performance monitoring into integrated service packages. The programs provided clients with complete solutions rather than recommendations that they needed to execute independently. The success of my expanded service offerings revealed significant gaps in the consulting services available to small and medium-sized manufacturers. Traditional consulting firms either focused on large corporate clients or provided superficial assessments that lacked the depth necessary for meaningful operational improvements. Large consulting organizations typically required minimum engagement fees that exceeded the budgets of smaller manufacturers, while independent consultants often lacked the systematic methodologies necessary to address complex operational challenges comprehensively. My combination of rigorous analytical approaches and affordable pricing structures addressed market needs that were not being served effectively by existing service providers. The recognition of this market opportunity coincided with growing confidence in my ability to deliver consistent results across diverse manufacturing environments. The success patterns that emerged from multiple client engagements demonstrated that my methodologies were applicable to various types of manufacturing operations rather than being limited to specific industries or company sizes. Regional business. Publications began featuring articles about successful operational improvement projects at my client companies. The recognition enhanced my professional credibility and generated inquiries from manufacturers throughout the Midwest who were seeking similar assistance with their operational challenges. The media attention also attracted interest from business organizations and professional associations that invited me to present my methodologies at conferences and educational seminars. These speaking opportunities provided platforms for establishing thought leadership while generating additional client referrals from audiences who recognize the practical value of my approaches. The increasing demand for my services created capacity constraints that required development of more efficient service delivery methods. The comprehensive analyses that had established my reputation were time-intensive and limited my ability to serve the growing number of companies that requested assistance. I began developing systematic approaches that would enable delivery of high-quality analytical services to more clients, without compromising the thoroughness that generated exceptional results. The solution involved creating assessment tools and implementation guides that clients could utilize independently with minimal direct consulting support. The manufacturing performance diagnostic became the first standardized product that combined my analytical methodologies with self-service capabilities. The diagnostic included comprehensive evaluation worksheets, performance benchmarking tools, and improvement planning templates that enabled companies to conduct thorough operational assessments without requiring extensive consulting support. The diagnostic tool generated revenue through direct sales while reducing the time investment required for individual client engagements. Companies that purchased the diagnostic could complete initial assessments independently and engage my consulting services only for areas that required specialized expertise or implementation support. This hybrid approach proved attractive to cost-conscious manufacturers who needed operational improvements but lacked budgets for comprehensive consulting engagements. The diagnostic provided immediate value at affordable cost while creating opportunities for expanded consulting relationships with companies that achieved success through the self-service tools. The expanding client base and professional network created access to market intelligence that provided insights into broader industry trends and competitive dynamics. The confidential information that clients shared during consulting engagements revealed challenges and opportunities that affected the entire regional manufacturing sector. My position as trusted advisor to multiple companies provided unique perspective on supply chain disruptions, competitive pressures, and market developments that individual manufacturers could not observe from their limited vantage points. The Aggregated intelligence enabled me to identify emerging trends and develop solutions that addressed industry-wide challenges rather than isolated company problems. The pattern recognition capabilities that had been valuable for individual operational analyses became even more powerful when applied to regional industry dynamics. I could identify market opportunities, competitive threats, and operational best practices that were not apparent to companies focused solely on their internal operations. This strategic intelligence proved valuable for both my business development objectives and my ability to provide exceptional value to client companies. I could advise clients about market trends that would affect their business decisions and recommend strategic initiatives that positioned them advantageously relative to competitive developments they might not have recognized independently. The comprehensive view of regional manufacturing operations revealed systematic problems that affected multiple companies and created opportunities for developing industry-wide solutions. The procurement inefficiencies, coordination challenges, and quality management issues that I observed at individual companies were representative of broader problems that limited the competitiveness of the entire small manufacturing sector. Traditional approaches to addressing these challenges focused on individual company improvements without considering the systemic factors that created similar problems across multiple organizations. My unique position provided insights into how collaborative approaches could generate benefits that exceeded what individual companies could achieve independently. The supplier relationship problems that affected most of my clients suggested opportunities for developing coordinated purchasing programs that would enable smaller manufacturers to negotiate better terms through collective volume. Similarly, the quality management challenges that appeared at multiple companies indicated needs for shared training resources and technical expertise that individual organizations could not afford independently. These observations led to development of industry consortium concepts that would enable smaller manufacturers to collaborate on common operational challenges while maintaining competitive independence in their market activities. The consortium approach could provide access to resources and expertise that individual companies could not obtain cost-effectively through traditional service providers. By late summer, my consulting practice had achieved financial stability and professional recognition that exceeded my expectations when I began pursuing independent work as a survival strategy. The monthly revenue had grown to levels that provided comfortable living standards while supporting continued investment in business development activities. More importantly, the knowledge and insights I had gained through diverse client engagements had created expertise that was more comprehensive and practical than anything I could have developed through traditional employment. My understanding of manufacturing operations, market dynamics, and business improvement methodologies had been enhanced through real-world application across multiple companies and industries. The professional network that had developed through successful client relationships provided access to business opportunities, industry intelligence, and referral sources that would have taken years to develop through conventional career advancement. The reputation for delivering exceptional results had established credibility that opened doors to opportunities I could never have imagined during my period of unemployment. The consulting work that had begun as desperate alternative to traditional employment had evolved into the foundation for business success that offered greater potential than anything I could have achieved through continued employment in manufacturing companies. The rejection that had forced me to consider alternatives to conventional career paths had redirected me toward opportunities that aligned perfectly with my analytical capabilities and professional interests. The systematic observation skills that had developed during my consulting engagements represented more than professional capability development. They had fundamentally changed my perspective on business operations, market opportunities, and the potential for creating value through analytical expertise applied to real operational challenges. The confidence that had eroded during months of unemployment had been replaced by deeper understanding of my professional capabilities and their market value. The expertise that had seemed irrelevant during my job search period had proven to be exactly what small manufacturers needed to improve their competitive position and financial performance. The strategic intelligence gathering that had emerged from necessity during my early consulting projects had become a systematic competitive advantage that differentiated my services from traditional consulting approaches. My ability to identify patterns, recognize opportunities, and develop comprehensive solutions had been refined through practical application in ways that theoretical knowledge could never have achieved. The foundation for extraordinary success had been established through the systematic development of capabilities that would have been impossible to develop through conventional employment paths. The strategic observation skills that had emerged from desperate circumstances would soon enable opportunities that exceeded my original career ambitions by orders of magnitude. The transformation from cautious consultant to bold entrepreneur required confronting fears that had paralyzed my decision-making throughout the extended period of financial instability. By September, my consulting practice had generated sufficient revenue to cover basic living expenses and begin rebuilding financial reserves. Yet I remained focused on short-term survival rather than long-term strategic planning. The success of individual projects had restored confidence in my professional capabilities. But translating that success into sustainable business growth would require risks that terrified me more than unemployment itself. The consulting engagements that had provided financial stability were inherently limited by my capacity to serve clients individually. Each project required comprehensive analysis, customized recommendations, and hands-on implementation support that prevented me from expanding beyond a handful of concurrent engagements. The revenue ceiling created by this constraint meant that my consulting practice, while successful, could never generate the financial returns necessary for true professional independence or the resources required to pursue larger opportunities. The recognition of this limitation coincided with increasing demand for my services that exceeded my ability to respond effectively. Referrals from satisfied clients were generating inquiries faster than I could evaluate potential engagements, forcing me to decline opportunities that represented substantial revenue potential. The success that should have created growth momentum was instead highlighting the fundamental scalability constraints of my current business model. Jennifer Walsh at Heritage Tool and Die had become my most enthusiastic advocate within the regional manufacturing community. Her satisfaction with the supplier consolidation project had generated referrals to 5 additional companies within 3 months, each requesting comprehensive operational assessments similar to the work I had completed for her organization. The consistency of these referrals suggested market demand that far exceeded what I could address through individual consulting relationships. During a follow-up meeting to review implementation progress at Heritage Tool and Die, Walsh challenged me to consider expansion possibilities that I had been avoiding due to risk aversion developed during my unemployment period. "Elena, you have developed something remarkable here," she explained. "Your analytical approach is generating results that these companies have never achieved through traditional consulting relationships. You should be thinking about how to scale this methodology rather than limiting yourself to individual projects." Her observation forced me to confront the reality that my cautious approach to business development was actually limiting my potential impact and financial success. The methodologies I had developed were applicable across multiple companies and industries, yet I was treating each engagement as a unique consulting project rather than recognizing the scalable value of my systematic approach to operational improvement. The decision to pursue business expansion rather than maintaining the safe boundaries of individual consulting required overcoming psychological barriers that had developed during my period of professional failure. The memory of my entrepreneurial disaster at Efficiency Edge remained vivid, serving as constant reminder of how quickly ambitious plans could collapse into financial catastrophe and personal humiliation. The fear of repeating that failure had created risk aversion that was preventing me from capitalizing on genuine market opportunities. The financial calculations that had once seemed straightforward during my initial entrepreneurial attempt now felt impossibly complex and threatening. Business expansion would require investment in personnel, systems, and marketing initiatives that would consume the financial reserves I had worked desperately to rebuild. The prospect of voluntarily returning to financial vulnerability seemed irrational, despite the potential rewards that expansion could generate. Professional relationships that had developed during my consulting phase provided the external perspective, necessary to overcome my internal resistance to risk-taking. David Kim at Midwest Precision Components had implemented my recommendations with exceptional results and was advocating for expanded services that would require hiring additional analytical staff to support his ongoing operational improvement initiatives. Elena, what you have accomplished with our production scheduling analysis has transformed our business, Kim explained during a quarterly review meeting. We need ongoing support to maintain these improvements and implement additional optimization projects. If you could provide dedicated resources rather than part-time consulting, we would be willing to commit to a multi-year service agreement that would justify significant expansion of your capabilities. His proposal represented exactly the type of client commitment that would justify business expansion. Yet accepting his offer would require investments in personnel and infrastructure that could destroy my financial stability if other clients did not provide similar commitments. The opportunity was substantial, but the risk of failure remained equally significant. Milwaukee Precision Components presented a similar expansion opportunity when they requested comprehensive operational support that would require dedicated staff rather than occasional consulting services. Company President Sarah Chen explained their vision for the partnership during a strategic planning meeting that highlighted both the potential rewards and risks of business expansion. Our operational improvements have generated savings that exceed our most optimistic projections, Chen reported. We want to expand these initiatives across all our facilities, but that level of implementation requires dedicated analytical resources rather than part-time consulting support. We are prepared to commit to a 3-year service agreement if you can provide the staffing necessary to support comprehensive operational optimization. The financial commitment they were offering would provide the revenue base necessary to support hiring additional analysts and developing the systems required for scaled service delivery. Their proposal, combined with similar requests from other satisfied clients, created a foundation for business expansion that addressed the scalability constraints that had been limiting my growth potential. The decision point that would determine whether I remained a successful but limited consultant or transformed into a genuine business owner arrived during October planning sessions where I evaluated the expansion opportunities that had emerged from my consulting success. The mathematical analysis of potential revenues and required investments demonstrated that expansion was not only feasible, but potentially highly profitable if executed effectively. The comprehensive business plan I developed incorporated lessons learned from my previous entrepreneurial failure and the practical insights gained through successful consulting relationships. Rather than pursuing untested market opportunities, the expansion would build upon proven demand from satisfied clients who had committed to multi-year service agreements that would provide stable revenue foundations. The expansion model emphasized systematic service delivery through standardized methodologies, rather than customized consulting approaches that required extensive time investment for each client engagement. The manufacturing performance assessment protocol I had developed during my consulting phase would become the foundation for scalable service delivery that could serve multiple clients efficiently while maintaining the quality that had established my reputation. The personnel requirements for expansion included hiring 2 additional analysts who would be trained on my methodologies and supervised during initial client engagements to ensure consistent service quality. The investment in staff would enable serving multiple clients concurrently while maintaining the thorough analytical approach that had generated exceptional results during my consulting phase. Technology infrastructure requirements included customer relationship management systems, project management software, and financial reporting capabilities that would support professional service delivery at expanded scale. These investments represented significant financial commitments, but they were necessary foundations for sustainable business growth rather than discretionary expenses. The marketing and business development initiatives required for expansion focused on systematic client acquisition through professional networks and industry associations, rather than expensive advertising campaigns that had contributed to my previous entrepreneurial failure. The reputation I had established through successful consulting engagements provided credibility that would support organic growth through referrals and professional recommendations. The financial projections for expansion demonstrated potential. Revenue growth from current levels of approximately $15,000 monthly to projected levels exceeding $40,000 monthly within 12 months of implementation. The projected profitability would provide financial security that exceeded anything achievable through continued individual consulting while creating resources for further business development. The risk analysis included comprehensive evaluation of potential challenges and contingency planning for scenarios where expansion objectives were not achieved as projected. The financial reserves that had been rebuilt through consulting success would provide adequate resources to support expansion investments while maintaining personal financial stability during the growth phase. The decision to proceed with expansion required confronting the fundamental fear that had prevented me from pursuing growth opportunities despite their obvious potential. The psychological barriers that had developed during my unemployment period needed to be overcome through rational analysis of current circumstances that were fundamentally different from the conditions that had contributed to my previous entrepreneurial failure. The market validation that had been absent during my initial entrepreneurial attempt was clearly present in the form of committed clients who had experienced exceptional results from my services and were requesting expanded relationships. The demand was genuine and substantial rather than theoretical, providing foundation for sustainable business growth. The expertise that had been untested during my previous venture had been proven through successful consulting engagements that generated measurable results for satisfied clients. The analytical methodologies and implementation capabilities that would support expansion had been validated through practical application rather than remaining theoretical concepts. The financial foundation for expansion was substantially stronger than the resources that had supported my initial entrepreneurial attempt. The consulting revenue had provided stable income and rebuilding of financial reserves, while client commitments offered predictable revenue streams that would support planned investments in personnel and infrastructure. The professional network that would support expansion included satisfied clients, industry contacts, and referral sources that had been developed through successful consulting relationships. The reputation and credibility necessary for business growth had been established through proven performance rather than requiring creation through marketing and promotional activities. The strategic planning process that would guide expansion incorporated comprehensive risk management and contingency planning based on lessons learned from previous failure and insights gained through consulting experience. The approach was methodical and conservative rather than optimistic and aggressive, reducing the probability of catastrophic failure while maintaining substantial growth potential. The final decision to proceed with business expansion was made during a November evening, when I reviewed the comprehensive analysis and recognized that my fear of failure was preventing me from capitalizing on genuine opportunities that offered exceptional potential rewards. The courage to risk financial security for the possibility of extraordinary success required acknowledging that my current circumstances provided advantages that had been absent during my previous entrepreneurial attempt. The transformation from individual consultant to business owner began with hiring Lisa Chen, a recent industrial engineering graduate who demonstrated analytical capabilities and learning aptitude that would enable her to master my methodologies, while contributing fresh perspectives to client engagements. Her technical background and enthusiasm for operational improvement made her an ideal addition to support expansion objectives. The second hire, Marcus Thompson, brought 5 years of manufacturing experience that complemented my analytical focus with practical implementation expertise. His background included project management and personnel training capabilities that would be essential for successful client engagements that required comprehensive organizational change rather than merely analytical recommendations. The expansion. Investments in personnel, technology, and infrastructure were completed during December, creating capabilities necessary to serve the committed clients who had requested expanded services. The systematic approach to business development that had been absent during my previous entrepreneurial attempt provided foundation for sustainable growth that would transform my consulting practice into comprehensive business operation. So, courage to risk everything that had been rebuilt through careful consulting work represented the crucial transition from survival-focused thinking to growth-oriented strategic planning. The transformation from cautious consultant to ambitious entrepreneur would ultimately enable opportunities that exceeded my original career aspirations and provided foundation for the extraordinary success that would culminate in acquiring my parents' company and transforming rejection into ultimate vindication. The expansion of Rodriguez Consulting Solutions from individual practice to comprehensive business operation required validation that my analytical methodologies could generate consistent results across diverse manufacturing environments while maintaining the quality standards that had established my reputation. The hiring of Lisa Chen and Marcus Thompson provided additional analytical capacity, yet their integration into client engagements would determine whether my approaches represented scalable expertise or merely personal capabilities that could not be systematically transferred to other professionals. The first comprehensive test of our expanded capabilities emerged when Great Lakes Manufacturing requested a complete operational assessment across their 3 facilities in Wisconsin, Michigan, and Ohio. The project scope exceeded anything I had undertaken during my individual consulting phase, requiring coordinated analysis by our entire team while delivering results that would establish credibility for our expanded service offerings. The engagement represented both substantial revenue opportunity and significant risk to our reputation if execution failed to meet client expectations. Great Lakes Manufacturing had been struggling with declining profitability across their multi-facility operation, despite steady demand for their industrial component products. Chief Executive Officer Margaret Walsh had learned about our services through industry networks and was seeking comprehensive analytical support to identify operational inefficiencies that internal management had been unable to address effectively. The complexity of coordinating improvements across multiple locations required expertise that exceeded traditional consulting approaches. The preliminary assessment revealed systematic coordination problems that affected procurement, production, scheduling, quality management, and customer service across all 3 facilities. Each location had developed independent processes that optimized local efficiency while creating enterprise-wide inefficiencies that were reducing overall profitability. The solutions would require comprehensive organizational change rather than isolated process improvements. My role evolved from individual analyst to project manager, responsible for coordinating our team's analytical activities while ensuring consistent application of our methodologies across different facilities and operational areas. The transition from personal expertise to systematic knowledge transfer required developing training materials, supervision procedures, and quality control processes that would enable Lisa and Marcus to deliver services that met our established standards. Lisa Chen's assignment focused on procurement analysis across all 3 facilities, identifying opportunities for vendor consolidation and cost reduction through coordinated purchasing strategies. Her engineering background provided technical understanding necessary for evaluating supplier capabilities, while her analytical training enabled systematic comparison of pricing, quality, and delivery performance across multiple vendors and product categories. The procurement analysis revealed that Great Lakes Manufacturing was purchasing identical materials from 17 different suppliers across their 3 facilities without coordination or price negotiation leverage. The decentralized purchasing approach had created administrative complexity while preventing economies of scale that could generate substantial cost reductions through vendor consolidation and volume-based pricing negotiations. Lisa's recommendations included establishing centralized procurement coordination, consolidating purchases with preferred suppliers who demonstrated superior performance across multiple evaluation criteria, and implementing vendor performance, monitoring systems that would ensure sustained quality and delivery reliability. The projected cost savings exceeded $200,000 annually, while reducing administrative burden and improving supply chain predictability. Marcus Thompson's assignment involved production scheduling analysis that examined workflow coordination within individual facilities and material flow between locations that shared common customers and product lines. His manufacturing experience enabled identification of bottlenecks and coordination inefficiencies that were creating unnecessary costs while extending customer delivery times. The production scheduling analysis revealed opportunities for load balancing between facilities that would reduce overtime costs while improving overall capacity utilization. Great Lakes Manufacturing had been treating each facility as independent operation, rather than recognizing opportunities for coordinated production planning that could optimize enterprise-wide efficiency and customer service performance. Marcus developed revised scheduling methodologies that balanced production loads across facilities while minimizing transportation costs and maintaining customer delivery commitments. The implementation required sophisticated coordination procedures and communication systems, yet the projected benefits included 15% reduction in production costs while improving on-time delivery performance from 78% to 94%. My personal focus concentrated on quality management coordination and customer service optimization that required enterprise-wide perspective rather than facility-specific analysis. The quality problems that affected Great Lakes Manufacturing were often created at one facility, yet discovered at subsequent production stages or by customers after delivery, creating cost implications that exceeded the value of defective products themselves. The quality management analysis revealed systematic communication failures between facilities that prevented effective root cause analysis and corrective action implementation. Quality problems identified at one location were not being communicated to other facilities that might be experiencing similar issues, resulting in duplicated problems and missed opportunities for systematic improvement. The customer service optimization analysis examined how order processing, production coordination, and delivery management affected customer satisfaction and retention. Great Lakes Manufacturing had developed customer service procedures independently at each facility, creating inconsistent communication and service levels that confused customers and reduced overall satisfaction ratings. The comprehensive assessment required 3 months of coordinated analytical work that demonstrated our team's ability to manage complex, multi-facility projects while maintaining the thoroughness that had characterized my individual consulting engagements. The systematic approach to data collection, analysis, and recommendation development established procedures that would enable similar engagements with other multi-location clients. The results presentation to Great Lakes Manufacturing leadership represented a crucial validation of our expanded capabilities and systematic methodologies. The comprehensive nature of our findings and the coordination required for implementation would demonstrate whether our team could deliver value that exceeded what individual consultants could provide through traditional approaches. Margaret Walsh assembled her entire senior management team for the results presentation, including facility managers, department heads, and corporate staff responsible for implementing our recommendations. The audience represented decision-makers who would determine both the success of this engagement and the likelihood of referrals to other potential clients within their professional networks. The presentation format incorporated lessons learned from my individual consulting experiences while demonstrating the enhanced capabilities that our expanded team provided. Rather than presenting isolated findings from individual analytical areas, we demonstrated how systematic coordination problems affected multiple operational areas and how integrated solutions could generate benefits that exceeded the sum of individual improvements. Lisa Chen presented procurement consolidation recommendations with detailed cost-benefit analysis that quantified savings opportunities while addressing implementation challenges that facility managers would encounter during vendor transition processes. Her presentation demonstrated technical competence and practical understanding that established credibility with audience members who would be responsible for executing procurement changes. Marcus Thompson's production scheduling presentation included workflow diagrams and capacity utilization analysis that illustrated current inefficiencies while demonstrating how coordinated scheduling could optimize enterprise-wide performance. His manufacturing experience enabled him to address operational concerns and implementation challenges that facility managers raised during the discussion. My presentation focused on quality management coordination and customer service optimization that required enterprise-wide perspective and senior management commitment for successful implementation. The strategic nature of these recommendations required board-level approval and coordination across multiple departments that had previously operated independently. The comprehensive nature of our analysis and recommendations impressed Great Lakes manufacturing leadership, while demonstrating capabilities that exceeded their initial expectations for the engagement. The systematic approach to identifying problems and developing solutions provided confidence that implementation would generate projected benefits, rather than creating additional operational challenges. Margaret Walsh expressed enthusiasm about our findings and requested immediate authorization to begin implementing our recommendations across all operational areas. Your analysis has identified problems that we suspected, but could never quantify comprehensively, she explained. The systematic approach to solutions provides confidence that we can achieve the improvements that our business requires for long-term competitiveness. The implementation phase that followed would provide ultimate validation of our expanded capabilities while establishing precedents for managing complex organizational change projects that required coordination across multiple facilities and departments. The success of implementation would determine both the financial benefits for Great Lakes Manufacturing and the reputation enhancement for Rodriguez Consulting Solutions. The procurement consolidation implementation required coordinating vendor negotiations across 3 facilities while ensuring continuity of supply during transition periods. Lisa Chen managed the vendor evaluation and selection process, while facility managers handled local coordination and staff training necessary for successful transition to centralized purchasing procedures. The results exceeded projected cost savings, as consolidated purchasing volumes enabled price negotiations that generated additional benefits beyond our initial calculations. The administrative efficiency improvements reduced procurement staff requirements while improving supplier relationship management and delivery performance monitoring capabilities. Marcus Thompson supervised production scheduling implementation that required comprehensive staff training and system modifications to enable coordinated planning across multiple facilities. The complexity of coordinating production schedules, material transfers, and customer delivery commitments required sustained management attention and systematic monitoring to ensure successful transition. The production scheduling improvements generated cost reductions that exceeded projections while improving customer service performance in ways that enhanced Great Lakes Manufacturing's competitive position within their market. The load balancing between facilities reduced overtime costs while enabling acceptance of additional orders that had previously exceeded capacity constraints. The quality management coordination implementation required establishing communication procedures and corrective action processes that enabled systematic sharing of problem identification and solution development across all facilities. The cultural change required for effective quality coordination exceeded the technical aspects of new procedures and monitoring systems. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.